seek guidance and be able to receive the guidance and act upon it. If I'm going to add a third part, is just do it.
Welcome back to another episode of Entrepreneur Unleashed, and I'm so happy you're here because I have someone in the studio you're not going to want to miss this entire episode. Brandon Gano is coming in here to talk about his trials and triumphs. Basically, if you've been watching any amount of the content we've been putting out, you know already that I believe so heavily in the concept of vicarious learning. The easiest way to shortcut your journey of success is to learn vicariously from others who have been through what you may be going through now and who have made it through to the other side. So Brandon's going to be sharing his trials and triumphs, and I'm so excited that we're going to just jump right in. Brandon, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. This is so exciting. I'm so happy to be here.
Man, you flew. You're a Jersey boy.
Yep.
I mean, we have that in common.
Yes, we do.
We're currently physically in the Miami studio, and you flew down today to be here.
Today, and I'm going to fly out today as well.
I'm like, wow, just wow. Let me say that much. But Brandon, tell us a little bit about you, what you're doing right now, and why the audience should even be interested in paying attention to this podcast.
Yeah, well, we have a couple of things going on. Where I started was a small little screen printing and embroidery shop in New Jersey, right where you're from, and it's just grown over the past few years. So recently, we've taken the next step. We're pursuing a franchise model. So that's way bigger than where we started for sure. The last 4 years were no small task by any means, but we definitely peaks and the valleys. We went through it all, and now we're kind of here to start a bigger journey, if you will, and have bigger hurdles to overcome. So that's the way it works,
right?
It's grow, just part of it.
Yeah, more hurdles, more roadblocks, more potholes along the journey, but it's an adventure. It's fun.
Yeah, right? That's why we do it, right? It's the entrepreneurial journey. It's if you're not expecting that, if you're not excited by that, you shouldn't be doing it.
That's very true. It's what do they say? An entrepreneur is the type of person who's willing to sacrifice not working 40 hours for someone else so they can work 120 hours for themselves.
That's not true. There's no way.
Well, I'm really excited to like pick apart where you are and what you're doing now. But before we do that, what I'd like to do is give the audience an opportunity to learn a little bit about how you even came to be who you are. And for me, what I enjoy doing is like trying to go back in time. Like, if you wouldn't mind, like, tell us a little bit about who the young Brandon Gano was. Like, where did you grow up? Like, what was your childhood like? That sort of stuff.
Yeah, so super young Brandon grew up in central New Jersey, the Bridgewater area. I've been there my whole life to this point, and it was a good childhood. No complaints, middle class suburban neighborhood, all the stuff you see in movies, right? And there were no real challenges. There's nothing crazy out of the ordinary. Parents both worked. Dad opened up his own business when I was about in high school or so. Okay. What really changed my course, though, was one of the first things was when I was 9. Not something I talk about a whole lot, but you asked the question, so I feel it's important.
This is a safe space. So.
No, it's not something I hide, but it's just not something I lead with necessarily. Okay. But it's a major point in my life and a major reason why I am where I am, and I continue to move forward. So when I was 9, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And, in today's day and age, that's minor. 20 years ago, when that happened, I was told it was a pretty major thing. And for a 9-year-old to hear that, that's like, your life's over. I was active. I was into sports, all these different things. And then for the doctors to sit there and tell me, like, can't play sports, you won't be active, like, you're going to die when you're 15 years old. They didn't say that. Not that bad, but that's what a 9-year-old hears, right? Right. So that kind of, it totally changed my course. And it was, the first few years were just absolute, it was a combination of like denial and just like, why me, the victim mentality, just like things that are just not good for anybody. Once I kind of got past, not even past it, but more into the acceptance phase of like, okay, it's not going away. So what are we going to do about it? That's where things started to change. And then at the acceptance and beyond phase, that's where we are now. And that only then was I able to use it as fuel instead of friction.
Okay.
And that is where life truly began for me.
What? Let's talk a little bit about your family. Do you have any brothers and sisters?
I have a younger brother, yeah.
Okay. How was that formative for you, like being the older brother? Did that play into anything that was formative for you to grow into who you are now, or?
Yeah, I think they say the oldest sibling is the smartest, right? Is that,
We'll have to ask him, right? We'll have to have him on the next episode.
he would disagree firmly, but no, we have a great relationship. We're like 4 years apart, so we had a good relationship, but we were distant enough to not like be in each other's way. So we played together, we fought together, all the things that brothers do.
Right.
But yeah, I would say definitely not being a parent figure, but that mentor figure almost.
Okay.
There's enough of an age gap for that. So that was my first lesson in leadership, if you will. Don't beat up your subordinates. That's what I got from that.
Definitely a plus. That's definitely a plus.
In my business owner journey, I'm taking that one with me from him, among a number of other lessons. But yeah, no, we have a good relationship.
How was schooling like?
Interesting.
Okay.
So because of the diabetes aspect, it was up until high school, it was very much like my mom was a typical Italian mom, like, overprotective, scared, cautious. So that part like stressed her out. So I kind of like, I had that watchful eye over me. Not from doing anything bad, just from like staying alive,
right.
Which is really not even that big of a concern. With of all things I could have, that's super minor in the grand scheme of things. But again, with that 9-year-old to 14-year-old mentality, you don't know any better.
Exactly.
You do what you're told. So that's kind of, I feel like I didn't even experience it to a full degree. I had like that in the back of my head.
I think that's like an important topic for most people in general. Like our problems are always major to us,
right?
Because that's what we know. But in the grand scheme, when you compare it to the things that actually occur or could occur, most of the things we struggle with are relatively minor.
Yeah.
And if we can go at those things and tackle those things with that right mentality, it helps you get through it a little bit, at least with less effort and energy, because at the end of the day, putting a lot of effort and energy into something that's really minor. Like major effort for a minor issue is almost like wasted energy.
Absolutely. I'm a big Tony Robbins fan. I'm sure you know who that is.
Yes.
I'm sure everybody knows who that is. But one of the things he says is where focus goes, energy flows.
Yes.
And that's the same with problems.
Yes.
If you're focusing on the problem, it is going to be the biggest thing.
Exactly.
'Cause that's where you're focused. So whatever it is, if it's money, if it's disease, if it's health, if it's lack of anything, that's
relationships, money.
That's what you're going to feel the most. So, focusing your energy and attention is very important, and not so much seeing problems, but seeing opportunities and seeing challenges and ways to grow. And that's what, thankfully, that's what I got to. And now I'm taking that with me through everything else.
Okay.
And that's why I said it's a gift of growth for the future, because I got that early.
Yes.
I didn't have to wait till I was 50 to realize that.
Right. From a formation of perspective.
Yeah.
You were able to do that at a young age. Then you got into high school, obviously, and now you get a little bit more freedom, a little bit more comfort with who you are and what's going on in your health life, if you will. What was high school like then for you?
High school is where I realized I hate school.
Okay.
That was, it just didn't make sense to me.
Okay.
That's where the entrepreneur really took over, because I'm like, why are we learning about this? I went to high school in 2010. I graduated. I had a smartphone in my pocket. Why are we memorizing facts about history? I'm spending 4 hours a day memorizing things that I have access to in less than 10 seconds if I want to.
I think it was Gary Vee had a post recently where he was talking about just that exact same topic, the arbitrage of knowledge. I mean, at the end of the day, everything's available on your smartphone.
Yeah.
So the way the education system is currently structured, it's basically trying to teach you to memorize something that's almost superfluous. It's, I mean, don't get me wrong. It's good to know history, have a good understanding of what's going on. But at the end of the day, almost any fact you need, you can get access to in seconds. It's not something you have to necessarily memorize. So if education was more oriented towards problem solving and solutions, uncovering solutions in your journey of learning, that would be a valuable environment. In fact, like I have 2 little ones, so that like if I were to select a school system or design one, I'd love to have that in an environment where you get rid of all the memorization of stuff you don't necessarily need to occupy your mind with. Not that it's not important, but accessing that information, teaching people how to access it easily is probably a better route to go.
Yeah, could not agree more.
In your journey, so you're struggling then, I guess, with the concept of what schooling is. Like, what do you remember specifically the things that you were struggling with? Like any particular things you were just frustrated with regard to school?
It was time, first and foremost. The length of time we spent in the classroom doing this useless stuff. I love math. Like, don't get me wrong. There's important parts of school, math, science, like all the STEM stuff, super important. But the reading Shakespeare, it's just not for me. It's not my thing. I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's just not my thing. History, like I love knowing about history, but to spend that much time on it is like, what are we really doing? Again, figuring out how to access knowledge or access information is far more important. But that's when I got more heavily involved into sports as well. So I played golf competitively, high school and college. And every minute in the classroom was not a minute on the golf course. So I'm like, where would I rather be, really, right?
Right.
So that was one of the bigger things. And then just it didn't seem. It's gonna sound. Don't want this to sound cocky, but like it didn't seem challenging enough. Like I love a good challenge, or again an opportunity to grow, like something to figure out, be a problem solver. And it wasn't. It was just memorize, recite, test, rinse, and repeat. And I couldn't get past that. I took that through college. I wanted to drop out of college. I didn't want to go to college. Then I wanted to drop out. I had that talk with my parents every 2 weeks, it seemed like. And they were very adamant that I go. And, I'm thankful for the experience and that they did, push me to be there. But it never sat well with me. And it was for that reason. And I think it just goes back to the employee mindset. Like that's what school is training you to be. And obviously that's not what I'm set out to be.
You said you were thankful for the experience. What was it about the experience you were thankful for?
This is a business show, so we're gonna keep it business. But I did have several businesses in college.
Okay.
They were all legal, so let me say that. Again, it's a business show. No, so everything was legal. It was, that was pre like Amazon, FBA, and all that kind of stuff. But it was, buying stuff in bulk and then reselling it to like one I remember was like they were knockoff like football jerseys or something. And everyone knew they were knockoffs, but it was just cool that you can get like a football jersey, and we're college kids, we're poor.
Right.
It's like, do you spend your money on beer or like other things? So if you could save money and look cool,
right,
that's awesome, right? 2 birds with 1 stone. So I would sell those and made a ton of money doing that and learned business lessons along the way too. So those kind of things, and then just learning how to be around people and negotiate to whatever level you do in college. Nothing like major, but you learn how to be a human being.
Yeah.
And take that with you. If you're sheltered your whole life and you just come out at 21 and expect to go, run a business, I don't know that works without some sort of that knowledge.
And I think that knowledge is important to gain, because this is what I struggle with this a lot, again, because I have 2 little ones. And I also sit on the board of trustees for a university. So I'm sort of like in a position where I'm pulled in different directions, because I have personal beliefs regarding higher education and the challenges that are associated with it. And I also believe in this concept of return on investment. So if you're going to invest both your your money, which it's not cheap to go to university, but more importantly, your time. Like, what are you getting back for that? So in your experience, like, one, you built some businesses, you engaged and learned some business lessons, which was great. Do you think it was worth the time that you put in, though?
No.
Because you completed all 4 years, right?
Yes,
You went and you got a degree in what? What was your ultimate degree?
Business management.
Business management. Okay. So if you look at the amount of money you spent going to university,
I answered your question.
and the time you put into it, like, there could be better ways to get that same knowledge and experience, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I could think of like 30 right now.
Exactly, right? And I talk about this a lot because I get into conversations with other parents and like all different levels of parenting, like where they are. And a big issue is whether or not you push your child in this direction or that direction. And push is probably the wrong word for it, but you lay out paths that they can venture down. And the higher education environment is one that I struggle with. I just have this like internal struggle because I enjoyed my university years, but sort of like you, I enjoyed them not necessarily because of the academic component to it. Although I did okay in university, I didn't really have to put a lot of effort and energy in because I didn't feel challenged like what you were describing. But when you look at the return on that investment, I don't know. I struggle with it. So I talk a lot about the concept of going to higher education. One of the speeches I gave was titled "Don't Waste Your Time Going to University," and it was a little bit of a play on words, but I was specifically talking about the whole return on investment aspect. Like, if you're going to go, make sure you're taking full advantage of getting to know the people, extracurricular activities, the social experience of it, because one of the other things I think that happens right now in society, especially with kids, is that we don't get enough of a social experience as we're growing up anymore. Everything's like play dates oriented or structured extracurriculars. So university is an opportunity to get outside of the bounds of a lot of that structure for kids at the first time. So there is some value component to that.
Yeah.
When you look at your journey, you had mentioned that you had a couple of different businesses in university. So one of them was this Jersey environment. What were some of the other ones?
The other one that sticks out is actually the precursor to my current business. Okay. It was, so I minored in entrepreneurship actually, which let me just say makes no sense in the grand scheme of things to go to college to minor in entrepreneurship. Like, that's an oxymoron if I've ever heard one. But anyway, so we were tasked with setting up a business it was a real business. It was run through, there was a number of us. I think there was 6 to 8 who were like actively participating in it. But it was run through the university. Like, it was set up as a business. Okay. Everything. We invoicing.
Like formation of the business itself too, like LLC, like that sort of stuff. Wow.
Yeah. So our club had, or our whatever the minor was, had the LLC. We sent invoices. We collected payment, like real forms of payment, not just cash under the table. We had to reconcile the books and,
buy equipment, everything.
Yes. Okay. So what we did was actually printing T-shirts. Okay. I had never heard of
screen
it.
printing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and I was like, this is kind of cool. It's not something, it was a liberal arts school. There was no such thing as like teaching about the trades or anything like that. This just happened to be the business we set up. Okay. And I'm really thankful for. I didn't do anything with it immediately after college, but the introduction to that, to see how like, let me back up a little bit. One of my biggest fears was sitting in these accounting and marketing classes. Like, I vividly remember sitting in a marketing class, and this is 2013, 14. And we're learning about what Kellogg's like Fruit Loops did as a marketing scheme on their cereal boxes in 1974. So you see how that's crazy, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one. Yeah. So that I'm thinking like, I'm going to be sitting at a desk for the rest of my life, and I'm going to hate my life because this is what we're learning about. Like, I can't see where this goes. So, but that was every single class. It was finance, it was accounting, it was marketing, it was business management. We're studying the 70s and 80s in the 2000 teens.
Yes.
I'm like, I don't know where this is going, but I don't like it.
Right.
So I was introduced to this, and I was like, now this is interesting. It's creative. It's not life or death,
Right.
which is really awesome. That's a bonus. There's no real training involved. It's not like you have to master the skill. There's no corporate ladder. I just loved it. I was like, how is this not talked about, but being told to sit at a desk and analyze stock charts for the rest of your life is like what's seen as successful. And that was my introduction to my formal introduction to the possibilities of ways to make money.
Yeah, see, that's how I know you're an entrepreneur, because like the vast majority of society is looking to figure out how you can climb that corporate ladder. You and I want to know how we can own the corporate ladder, right?
That's
I
right.
mean, we want to figure out what is it that we can put in place, what value creation can we put out into the marketplace, and because of that, have individuals interested in giving us money.
Absolutely.
And again, I'm an unapologetic capitalist, so I'm not ashamed of talking about money in any way. I know a lot of people are like uncomfortable talking about it, but you're now getting exposed to value creation in this entrepreneurial environment at university.
Yeah.
That kickstarted a belief in you. That, I mean, not necessarily kickstart because you already had the belief, but that actually formed it in a way that you can now put it out and actually do it, right? So you get out of university. What was the first thing you decided to do then? Because now you've had this experience. You've gained some social awareness, social experience. What was your next adventure?
So it was actually going back to what I was doing. So in 2010 or so, whenever I was in high school, my dad started a franchise business in the awards industry.
Like plaques and
Yes,
like trophies
exactly.
and things?
So that's what I was doing before college, and I was like, this is kind of cool. Like, I would love to just do this instead, because I didn't want to go to college, like I said. I was like, let me just do this. And he was like, no, go to college. Like, you're going to learn how to make this better, and you can come back and help, like, with a degree in business, and we can, grow it from there. So I came back to doing that, was able to, sort of implement some of those things. But again, it was limited because it wasn't current. It was so outdated.
You're talking about the knowledge you learned
Correct.
at university.
Correct. Yeah. So, was it worth it or not? ROI, probably not. But that's when that franchise introduced custom apparel as like a business line. Okay. And I was like, I just did this. Like, I think we should try it out. Like, I think I could kind of take this over and run with it. So that's pretty much what we did. That was my thing.
The custom apparel portion.
Yeah. My dad was doing the same thing, the same business that he was always doing, and he just said, like, listen,
trophies, plaques,
yeah,
all that.
if you did this in college, you're comfortable with it, like, try it, see what happens.
Okay.
And I was able to grow it so quickly that it was a self-sustaining business, and it didn't make sense to be the everything to everybody. Like, you go to your general physician for a checkup, you don't go for heart surgery. And that's what that business started to not just his, the whole franchise just started like, oh, we could do this, we could do that, we could do that. And it's kind
So
of
this was the franchise your father had
Correct.
bought into.
Yes.
So it was someone else's creation. He was just operating a franchise of that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So they started to pull these different pieces in. It was signage, it was promotional products and apparel, and then I don't know what else it even was, but it was like and. And I kind of saw the writing on the wall of like where this could go if just, left untethered, if you will. And it was 100-hour weeks. It was, you're never going to find enough employees who can specialize in their different areas and be good at it. And then God forbid one leaves. And then what do? You have this whole other business area. So my philosophy was, be good at what you're good at and then stick to that. Grow a business around that. So that's kind of what we did. We said, okay, I'll take this business over here. It'll be totally separate. He'll keep doing what he was doing. And he actually even pared down what he was doing a little bit to kind of prevent some of that too. Okay. But that was 5-ish years ago, which was, now I'm all confused with the dates. So it was probably 3 or 4 years after college that I started this current business.
So in the 2016, 17-ish range.
Middle of 18 is when I started. Yeah. Okay. So 4 years after college. And it just blew up. And it was like, it was like a rocket
I just want to make sure I'm understanding the situation. Your father still had the franchise that he was part of, and then you created a brand new business separate from the franchise.
Correct.
And you said you grew. Let's go back for a second because I want to make sure I'm understanding something too. Before the 18 where you actually separated, created your own, you said you took the custom apparel portion of the business and grew it like more quickly than you thought you even could.
Yeah.
How did you do that? Like, what was the process you went through in order to do that?
It was super complicated. It was just be really good at customer service.
Okay. I love it. I love it.
So the reason I got into this end of the business is because when we were doing it with that company, it was most of everything was outsourced. And in this industry, for some odd reason, this is why I love it. It is so bad. There's no communication with the customers. It takes 3 to 4 weeks to get things. When you do get them, you hope they're right.
Right.
It's not always the case. I see you have some merch on your tables. You've been through this. Hopefully you got the good end of the industry, not the bad end.
Right. I may have to reach out to you, though.
Maybe. That's not why I'm here. But
I know.
But I've seen that over and over and over. And then as a buyer, but also a reseller of the product, I had to deal with people on the other end. So it was challenge after challenge. And, we're going to miss your due date. We're not going to ship in time. We don't have that product in soccer. You know what? We really can't do that. This more important order came in. I'm like, what is wrong with this industry?
And that was something so you were outsourcing a lot of the work at the time. So you weren't actually doing any of the custom printing in-house. It was like you were handling order taking, front end customer relationship, but you went gangbusters because the customer relationship you were forming was excellent.
Exactly.
Okay.
So
how did you learn that, by the way? Like, how did you learn that it was important to help the customer understand the entire journey?
Amazon and Zappos.
Okay.
I credit everything to those business models. It's not the customer is always right, but if you can make the customer feel seen, heard, and understood, that is the biggest game changer in any business. It has nothing to do with what I do, what you do. It's human beings in general. If you can simplify a process to get a product that they already want and make them feel like you understand what they're looking for and you care about what they're looking for, how could you not succeed?
That's worth, what you just said was worth a degree in business right there.
I didn't get that from school.
You learned that from the school of life.
That's school of hard knocks, in business. That's what I've seen is...
That's foundational stuff.
Absolutely. But it's not practiced.
Not at all.
In any industry.
Not consistently.
Right. I'm not saying I'm not the unique one here, but
But the ones who do practice it, those are the ones you know of. Those are the companies that they build true brands because their customers become raving fans.
Absolutely.
So you got to a point where you started learning these lessons that transition a business from being mediocre to being exemplary. You made a decision to abandon the franchise model that you were operating within to form something new. That had to be a little scary.
It definitely was. I think when you start any business, whether you're part of a bigger model or you're on your own, or if it's just an idea, there's the idea phase where oh my God, this could be amazing. I'm going to have the private jets and Lamborghinis. And then there's the actual creation of that thing. And that's kind of where the fear sets in. Maybe I don't know everything I'm doing here or how this works. And then it can go one of two ways, one of three ways. You could flounder around forever, or it's, success or failure. But not that I like to use the word failure, it's more of a learning lesson, but still it's tough.
It's only
tough
failure
to start
if you don't get back up.
Right.
I mean, if you're a business owner, you fall down. It just happens.
You have to.
Or you bang your head against a wall from time to time. But it's only failure if you quit.
Absolutely.
And if you're not willing to quit, you're never going to fail. You can pivot, which is what you did.
Yeah.
You said this wasn't feeling right for you, so you pivoted to do your own thing, and you continue to grow, right?
Yeah.
I mean, were there any other headwinds that you experienced when you jumped into that, doing it your own? Like, because you were operating in someone else's model.
Yeah.
So, like, how did you go about building your own model?
That's a good question. So I started doing very similar work, like outsourcing a good portion of it. And then, that's why I started the business, because I thought there had to be a better way. So shortly after, I brought on the production piece of the business in-house. Yeah.
Okay.
So I was fully in control of everything. And I thought, like, once you have that, that's the secret, right? That's the secret to being a millionaire and having success in this industry.
If only.
Yeah, right? Stupid me. And that's when I realized that's where all the problems came from.
Yeah.
And I kind of got it from the standpoint of, like, it's not as easy as it looks or seems. Like, it's a very complicated process. There's nuances. It's an art and a science. It's a delicate
Building
balance.
out operational efficiencies takes work.
Yes. So, and the actual decoration of the products, like, it's a big thing.
Well, there's artistry involved in what you're talking about.
So
And
that's
then there's functionality too.
Yes.
Like, how do you make that back end operation work?
Exactly.
Who do you put in the role? Again, I'm not a screen printer, so I have no idea how to do any of that stuff. But I would imagine you have to build expertise in actually applying whatever it is that you're applying to the product. You have to have the right mechanics for the machinery, operating the machinery, fixing the machines when they go down. Like, what's that like? Because I know that there are a lot of business owners in a variety of different segments, if you will, of their entrepreneurial journey who are consuming this type of content. Some people are just thinking about getting started, whether it's in screen printing or some other type of manufacturing business. Like, what were some of the things you were going through as you were forming this? Like, because you took some knowledge from the franchise model, but you had to create a lot of your own because you weren't doing it in-house under the franchise environment.
It was very much self-taught, and let me say, I'm not a screen printer either.
Okay.
I learned that real quick. It is not all it's cracked up to be. It's fun, don't get me wrong. You do it a couple times, and then you're like, wow, got to do this at scale, like, for a long time. Not my thing. I know my place. So that was the learning curve, was like, okay, so this isn't working for me. How do I build systems around this so it does work consistently in this product that I've prepackaged as a business, right?
Okay.
Service. I always say, to my staff, like, we don't sell T-shirts. Right. We sell the service of acquiring the T-shirts. And that's the unique difference, I think, between someone like me and someone who's actually, like, in their garage printing the shirts, like, or even at scale. You could be a $10 million business, you pumping out a lot of shirts, but if you're the guy doing it, or that's what your passion is, it's not scalable because you can't walk away. You can't come to Miami on a Tuesday and have a conversation with somebody and know that things are still getting done in New Jersey. And that's the difference. I did not want that. So I had to build the systems around that to make sure the process was repeatable, it was accurate, it was consistent, and it could be scaled. And that's where we are now, at scale. We've proven that it can work on a small scale locally. It's not a new product. It's not something, we're not reinventing the wheel here. We're just really good at customer service. And we found a process to make that repeatable across the country.
I think you just gave another lesson here. It's because, not even a lesson, a degree, because you just boiled down the major challenge for anyone who's in a product-oriented business. So whether it's e-com, whether it's retail, it's not about the product. It's about the service experience you give to the end customer in the acquisition of the product. Yep. That's amazing. And you're young. Like, there are business owners that I talk with who are in many, many, many decades into the development of their business, and they don't get that. They're still like, how can I get the most amount of margin on XYZ product? And it's not always about the margin experience, because you can build volume by getting amazing raving fans to say, listen, if you don't know Brandon Gano, you definitely need to go out and meet this guy, because his business made my experience of getting XYZ seamless. Like, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, well, thank you. First of all, that's those were incredible compliments, and that they don't fall on deaf ears. I would say even one step further, and this is really my passion in business, is making that customer experience exceptional and outstanding. And it's not just products; it's service. Like, for example, I was taking my kids to the doctor yesterday morning, and so you know this because you have young kids. I have 3, 1, and 3 months old. So me and my wife are dragging these 3 maniacs in the front door of the doctor, and the receptionist just sits there. How can I help you? I'm like, my God.
Yes.
You see what we're going through. Like, can you just put a smile on your face? Like,
exactly.
You can make this experience extraordinary for us. Tell a joke. Say, well, having a crazy day so far?
Right.
Like, do something. And nobody does it. Yeah. It blows my mind. It's every single industry. 90% plus of the businesses in those industries are just functioning.
How do you help your team know to do that? Like, what do you do, one, to encourage it, but beyond that, just educate about how to do that?
I always say, it's ongoing. It's not just it's not like you sit down for a week of training and I tell you this and go function on your merry way and we'll never revisit it. That's definitely not the case. So it's ongoing. It's repeated saying it, hearing it for them. And I continue to ask the question, like, what would you want? What would make this outstanding for you? If you're in the customer's shoes, we'll use a simple example from our industry. If you order, we'll say 100 shirts or something, what if we threw in 5 sweatshirts that you weren't expecting? Maybe not for Miami. So
right.
Maybe a bad,
I don't know. I'm
bad
always
product
cold.
selection.
I'm always cold. The air conditioning in here gets ridiculous at times. But
I heard that. It's but that's the kind of thing. It's like, do something out of the norm that is going to cost us money. Like, that absolutely costs money.
It eats into margin.
Our margins are shrinking, right? But it does 2 things. It builds a relationship with that customer. It gives them that wow factor of like, first of all, oh my God, these people went over the top. They gave me something free I didn't even ask for, and they didn't mention it.
Right.
Or try to upsell me.
Right.
It also upsells them.
Yes.
So that's kind of the business end. Is like, can I get 100 of those now too? Right. That's not the goal by any means, but I would say, if 30-40% of the time that investment of 5 little things returns 100,
well, you're essentially just saying, okay, I have a marketing budget, and instead of putting it here, I'm going to put it here. I'm going to over deliver with an understanding that it's demonstrating skill set in an area that particular customer may not have ordered from.
Right.
Now, this is not something that everyone can do within every business, but it's highlighting an area of exceptionalism for an entrepreneur to try to engage within.
That specifically, no, you cannot do that in your business.
Right.
But what can you do?
Exactly.
That's the question I ask continuously, is how can we go above and beyond to create an exceptional experience? And it's not always that. That's an easy example for us because it's the thing we do. It shows we have, like you said, expertise in different areas.
Right.
Maybe people don't even know about that product line. If it's, I don't know, just any business. It could be an asphalt paving company. Like, what can you do? Can you sweep the grass when you're done? You know what I mean? Like, just take pride in what you're doing and show that you care about that person and the fact that they chose you, because in every industry there's competitors.
Yes. Locally,
nationally, whatever.
What are you doing to stand out?
Exactly. And make yourself memorable and feel like, you care about the individual you're serving.
So this journey for you started, for the enterprise you're in now, started in mid-2018.
Yep.
How quickly did you get to the point where you're now ready to scale? Like, because we talked earlier before this particular podcast episode began, but I'd like the audience to understand that evolution from 2018 to when was it that you started feeling comfortable in growth?
So I'll say that the ambition of scale was actually before I started this business.
Okay.
I liked the franchise model. I just thought it was a little bit broken, and now that I'm really in it, I'm seeing that it might be more broken than I thought. And it's not not to any one industry or business, but I've seen, because I've talked to other franchise owners and founders and people, C-level executives in different brands, and there's a lot of discomfort at the bottom, and I don't have the answer to fix that yet, but it's definitely something I'm taking into consideration, and I'm seeing that, and I'm taking that with me forward as something of an area of focus, if you will. So to answer the question is, I knew I wanted to scale using a franchise model because for me, there's no ego in it. We all have ego. Like I don't need all the money and all the fame and the glory and fortune. I think I actually shy away from that to some degree. Okay. So if I were to scale this myself, like for what? That's the question I keep coming back to. It's like, why? Why really do I want to do that? And I don't have an answer. But when I say, how can I give this to others and scale it that way? That's where the franchise model came out of. So it's enabling other people to grow businesses, to own businesses, to not be slaving away, to help them through those early years and the challenges that we've discussed. And then also to help impact those communities. And you can do it faster, you could do it more efficiently, and more good can come from it versus me just having a big bank account at the end of the day. So that is really the motivation behind it, is how do we, A, do that, and then B, totally disrupt this industry at the same time with a very unique model to take on the screen printing and custom merch industry.
That's interesting, because I know that there are a lot of business owners that I've talked with that are at a point in their journey where they're trying to decide, do I scale it on my own or do I do something different? The avenue that you're taking is the franchise environment, meaning taking the expertise that you've developed in the deployment of the services that you render for your customer, packaging it, and then teaching it to someone else so that they can do it within their own enterprise. So that's essentially what the franchise environment is.
Yep.
Other individuals, instead of doing that, would say, well, if I don't want to scale myself, I could just become a coach. I could just teach people how to do it. So then all you're doing is buying my knowledge. Why did you decide the franchise model versus that model?
Coach seems, and I could be very wrong on this, coach seems like a lot more work, because you're still going to have to duplicate yourself at some point if you want to scale that.
Right.
And then also, I don't know that I have the impact, and not the impact for me, the impact for the other person. If I'm just coaching you one-on-one, you're going to see results to some degree, hopefully good ones. But after that, like, then what?
Right.
Do we follow up? Are we there consistently? Do we stay in touch? What's that relationship look like? And then if you stop, do you go downhill? So I like franchising because someone's buying into a concept, a community, and a business model that works, and they have ongoing coaching and support.
So essentially the franchise model is a coaching model.
I see it as much like a coaching, maybe more mentoring, but yes, definitely along those lines.
With proven systems that you're licensing out to the recipient of that franchise, and you're guiding them in the implementation of that body of knowledge, if you will.
Yeah.
Do you imagine that you'd be facilitating the acquisition of like machinery and things like that for them as well, or
for the franchisees?
Correct.
So with the unique business models that we have, one is an express model. So it's super inexpensive to get into, including the franchise fee, startup costs. It's zero production.
Oh, okay.
I'll get back to that in a minute because I talked about how bad that was a second ago. Right. The second would be a production model. Okay. So if you wanted to do full-scale production, control that, all that fun stuff, you could do that. But the express model at headquarters, we're going to have the production equipment.
Okay.
We're only producing for our locations.
So you sort of like white label out for your location.
Yes, which is the outsourcing that I talked so negatively about a minute ago, but we're super tied to the result.
You're fixing the issues you didn't enjoy.
Exactly.
In the model that you were previously under.
Yes.
You're fixing that, so you're making it a better service experience for your franchisees.
Yes, and their end user, because we're on the same team.
Right.
Versus what I was talking about before, like those are just third-party companies. They don't care if I place an order for 100, someone else places an order for 1,000. We can all guess who's going to get priority.
Right.
And there's really no there's no anything you can do about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not your business. They don't care.
Right.
For lack of a better term. So that's the real reason I wanted to do it this way, is to take the financial pressure off of the locations, to own the equipment and produce the material, but also bring it in-house with an expert team who can do it really quickly, like way quicker than anyone else in the industry. So not only do we have the quickest product, we have the easiest to get product. And that is where, in my opinion, scale will come from.
What so far? So since 2018 till today, like what's been the biggest challenge that you've had to face then in building this business as it stands today? Your mindset. Okay.
Getting out of my own way.
Okay. I think that's something that most business owners struggle with daily.
Yeah, I agree.
Like how did you do that?
Spent a lot of money on coaching. I mentioned Tony Robbins among several others. I noticed really early on a lot of fear would come up around simple things, and it's just like, why? Like what's really going on here? Why am I afraid of this? Because this doesn't make any sense. Other people are obviously doing it.
Yeah.
So why am I afraid of it? And it's a level of like fake confusion. One of my mentors says it's like, I don't know how to tie my shoes, so I can't go run today. I bet you could figure it out, or maybe ask somebody or watch a YouTube video, and then like that's not the real excuse. Like what's really going on? Right. So it was a lot of mindset work, training, and just consistently improving myself. And that I've seen the biggest payoff over the last 4 years.
I'm curious, like what was it about either your growing up, about your experience in sport? What was it that helped you to understand that it made sense to get mentoring, get coaching? Because I think that this is something a lot of business owners just don't do. Mm-hmm. I find it kind of like ridiculous, because that's probably the biggest thing that holds people back is you don't know what you don't know.
Yes.
And if you could find someone who can enlighten you, I mean, it changes everything. Mm-hmm. Like if I look back at my journey, I can point to the day that things have changed. Like, and I've hit lots of roadblocks in my journey and all the different businesses that we have, and I can literally point to the day when I learned something from someone else in a mentorship environment that just made all the difference. Mm-hmm. And like I try to encourage people to say, hey, listen, if you, like we were talking about university a while ago, like you invest all of that money and time for 4 years, and then you stop investing in yourself the rest of your life. Like why? That doesn't make sense at all to me.
It's crazy.
I mean, this year alone, I spent probably well over $100,000 on mentors and just the mentorship experience. Like, but it's returned millions of dollars over the course of my journey. It just, that return on investment just makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah.
When you look at that mindset then being the biggest struggle that you've had to get over, are there any lessons specifically that you learned that helped you just understand that? Is it or made you like push you over the edge with regard to fixing that?
I think understanding where it comes from is just understand it's not real. Mm-hmm. It's fear of in some form.
Right.
And it's completely made up. Mm-hmm. As far as getting over it, I would say is more from experience than just a knowledge of anything. Mm-hmm. So I had, don't get me wrong, I still, like, fear comes up, things happen. Like, any big decision, as the decisions get bigger, it's something you've never faced before.
Right.
And that's going to come up, but it's how quickly can you recognize it and have the tools to get past it. So, 4 or 5 years ago when I started on this journey, we'll use the shoelace example, like something that minor maybe would have stopped me for a week before doing something. Or we'll use the shoe thing. So like going for a run, get exercising. Like there's no real consequences to that, right? Downside is, but it's finding an excuse. Like I'm afraid of it. What if I get hurt? Like that's not real. You're scared of something else. Once you're able to pinpoint it and then, kind of cure that, you can move on. But now the scale of my problems, I always joke with my wife, she's like, if she comes to me with a problem, I'm like, you need bigger problems because you can just blow through that. But the scale of my problems are on millions of dollars level, and I'm making decisions like that. And that's the evolution of getting past that mindset. So as far as the experience goes, I've been to a couple of these events. We'll reference Tony Robbins, like his events and other similar events with different people who I regard as close mentors and impactful mentors in my life. And all of them have something unique in common is with these challenges that they have at the events. You think you're going there to learn about business and investing or mindset, not even mindset. You don't think you're going there for that. Real estate. And then you get there and you're walking on fire and you're one that I just went to recently that was pretty cool. We were in the ocean at midnight in the dark and we had to like go as a team or whatever. And I'm terrified of the ocean. Like that freaked me out. And this was
at night.
This was 2 weeks ago. Like if I even touched the water of the ocean, I would lose it. And just to have the tools to recognize, why am I scared? Is something really going to happen? Like, am I going to get eaten by a shark? It's New Jersey. Probably not.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe here, but not.
Yeah, maybe here.
Not New Jersey.
Miami.
Yeah. But I'm like, just do it. See what happens. Like to have the tools to be able to say, just do it. Now there's a lot below the surface there that's going on, but to have those tools to encounter whatever scenario it is, picking up the phone for a sales call or I don't know, hiring a new employee. If you're like, maybe money's tight, I don't know how this is going to work. All those little things is the just do it moment. That's what I've gained out of it is like, we'll figure it out on the back end. But for now, we're going to plow through it.
But I think it's important to note that you didn't do that the very first time.
Oh, God, no.
I mean, it took you doing it over and over and over again to become good at it. It's like golf, as an example. The first time you swing the club is not going to be the best time you ever swung the club.
I was much like Tiger Woods, actually.
Well, okay. You're definitely not like me. Like what I do can't be called golf. It's more like hide and go seek in the woods. But it's the repetitive approach to it. Like I enjoy tennis. It's the same concept. Having the stroke more than once, like going through it over and over and over again makes you good at it. And in business, the same things occur. The more you deal with employee retention issues, the more you deal with coaching your employees up or out of the business, the more you do it, the better you get at it. As long as you're learning the right techniques along the way too. So because it's important not just to coach up and coach out, but to learn how to do that from people who have done it before you, who have mastered that art, reaching out to the right mentors to learn from, reaching out to the right resources to consume. It's one of the reasons why we created this entire podcast in the first place, is to give people an opportunity to learn vicariously from people who are doing it, who are going out and making a difference in their life. In that same vein, then, like you've dealt with one of the biggest challenges or struggles, if you will, from 2018 to now, being mindset. What's something like you're super proud of? Like what's a win that you've had? What's a triumph you've engaged in?
That's a good question.
Okay.
Maybe this is revealing something about myself that I wasn't totally aware of. I don't know.
Okay.
I have to. I mean, not that I harp on my failures, and I don't like to call them failures because I've learned from everything, and I take growth on the other side. But I couldn't tell you any like super powerful win. I mean, if I like read you my stat sheet or whatever, like there's some things on there that are cool. Don't get me wrong, but to have like a win ready to list off, I don't know. I think franchising honestly is a win for me. Like it not only takes a lot of money to start that, which is super awesome, but it's an investment, not a cost.
There you are.
But yeah, just to be able to come from where I was with just total chaos, unorganized, flying by the seat of your pants, to develop a system and put people in place and grow this machine. I'm definitely proud of that. But as far as like listing off wins, I don't see myself at the end yet.
Right.
So I don't focus on what's behind me
Right.
to celebrate necessarily, just to learn from. So I'll go with that as the win, but yeah, maybe I have some issues to take care of.
I'm definitely going to encourage you to revisit what your recent experiences have been, because I do think it's important for entrepreneurs to have that experience of the win. You shouldn't just live life for that, because it is about the journey. But recognizing milestones met is important, not just for you, but also the people within your tribe.
Right.
So, if you set a goal for X amount of revenue in a given month, and you surpass that goal, that should be celebrated. That should be something. Wow, get the whole team behind it. We've hit this milestone, and now here's to the next mountain.
Yeah,
that we're ready to climb. So I would definitely encourage you to experience the win, recognize and celebrate the win with those who matter within that environment, that ecosystem, whether that's your team at the studio, the shop, whether that's your family, whether that's your network of friends, or your network of collaborators, the individuals who are building along with you or within your environment, helping to lift you up and lift each other up. Celebrating wins, I think, is good.
Absolutely.
We don't do that enough as business owners, because we're always focused on the next hurdle, the next mountain to climb.
Yeah.
But definitely celebrate. I would definitely encourage that. When you look at the next few years, then, like, what are some of the goals that you have going forward?
Yeah. So I definitely want scale quickly. That's really the goal, is to get to the 25 location mark, get to the 100 location mark. Okay. There's other brands in similar industries who have 750-ish or 650 in this country alone.
Okay.
And I see that as very possible. I personally believe within 10 years would be very feasible to do that. And that's kind of what I'm chasing. I think, what we have is not unique from the standpoint of the product we sell, right? Okay. But again, we don't sell that as the product.
Right.
So the way we approach it is very unique to, there's two other franchises in this industry that are not really growing. But there's this other one in the complementary industry that's massive. Well, why? Right. The answer is so clear to me. And that's why I feel like it's almost, to me, it's inevitable. That's a strong word to use. But with the way that I see growth happening, that's the word I'm going to choose.
What you're doing, essentially, there's this philosophy, or this segment of philosophy in philosophy called synthesis, which is you take the good from all the different concepts, all the different strategies that you take the good and you piece it from this strategy, that strategy, and you put it together into a collection that's your own.
Yep.
That's essentially what you're doing. You're saying, okay, this is another business in maybe a related industry. This is why they're going gangbusters. I'm going to take this and apply it. See, that's another lesson. I mean, that's something that a lot of business owners never learn, and you've already learned it. Like, you don't have to stick with what's happening in your own industry in order to enhance and improve what you're doing. You can go to any industry, really. I mean, it doesn't even have to be complementary. It could be, if you're a car dealership, you can learn from an insurance salesman. You can learn from a medical practice. You can learn from a landscape architect. I mean, you can learn from anyone in business. Just apply the things in an appropriate way for your unique industry. That's exceptional. When you see those next 5 years then of getting scale and exposing yourself to growth at a level that you're currently not at but you aspire to, how is that going to change your life? Like, what will change in that environment?
That's interesting. I don't see myself necessarily changing.
Okay.
That might be a really dumb answer, but in my head, I'm like, I will continue to improve myself.
Okay.
So, that's change, I guess. But let me say this. The way I heard that question is, how will you be different? What will you be motivated by? What will you be chasing? If I misheard, definitely let me know. But from that, nothing. I'm chasing change in the industry, and to create change and enable and develop business owners to change the industry. So until that's done, I don't see myself changing.
Wow. Okay. When you look at what you're doing, you're obviously setting yourself apart from others in your niche. That comes with financial rewards. Like, how are you dealing with the money aspects then of what you're doing? Like, how has your life been impacted by that, and what have you learned in that journey?
Yeah, well, it's like I said, a lot of money went out to create it. So that I'm not motivated by money, and I'm not necessarily attached to money from the standpoint of like, I need this certain amount to feel okay.
Okay.
And I've learned that because it definitely invested way more than I anticipated in the creation of this company, and what goes along with it. But it's this relentless drive of the vision and the ultimate impact. I mean, the money, don't get me wrong, is there. Like, and that's another reason why we're doing this, because it's proven and profitable. So we can give that to other people. It's definitely, when you're on this end, there's big money involved. There's big upside, and if the worst thing that ever happens is I lost everything that I've invested, I'm young. I can get it back.
I love it. I love that energy. How are you working to keep more of what you're making then?
Fantastic question. And that's what I'm excited to talk to you about, because I know you have some input in that area. I just try not to give away money foolishly. An investment is one thing, but paying the government unnecessarily is another thing.
You and I are in 100% agreement there.
I'll pay accountants, I'll pay advisors all day long. To write a check to the IRS just hurts so bad. Yes. When it's unnecessary. We all pay our fair share, but that's definitely an area of focus, because at scale, it's bigger checks going out. And that's definitely an area of focus for me moving forward. So I don't have the answer fully to that question.
Looking at your journey with individuals in the financial spectrum, if you will, who are giving you guidance, is there any nuggets of wisdom that you have enjoyed or struggled with so far in your business career?
I would say finding someone who understands what you're doing is incredibly important. I think my accountant is their whole firm is phenomenal. Like they definitely get the number side of running a business, but optimizing that for the specific niche we're in, I don't know if they're quite there. I don't know if anybody is, to be honest with you. I think, first of all, it's my responsibility to be that person. Because if I'm the business owner, like, I need to know those things. Shame on me, first and foremost. So that's definitely something I need to understand better. But one of the things that I've put a lot of focus in is setting up my personal life and my business life in the business structures that make the most sense to not give it all away. So something I learned from recently for this year is I'm going to pay a lot of taxes next year, which kind of stinks because I just didn't set it up the right way.
Well, we still have time.
I know. Yeah,
the year is not done yet.
That's right.
You still have an ability to make change. See, most of the advice that a lot of business owners get from those in the financial sector is that, here, let's do something different in order, or spend money in order to keep money. I
Not
think
a big
that's
fan
ridiculous.
of that.
I think that's ridiculous. But you can definitely shift how you're already spending money and essentially get the IRS to be a partner of yours in business. Because you really have two choices. You can make the IRS an enemy, or you can make them a partner. And essentially, they are already a partner. I mean, at the end of the day, they're going to get paid. So they already have a play in every single business that exists, but you can make them a good partner and utilize the tax code, which is essentially just a recipe book. It's an incentive system for business owners that the government's basically trying to tell you this is we want you to be doing because this is what we believe society needs right now. You as a business owner are a better position to do it than we as the government are. So these are the incentives, and if you learn what those incentives are, you can actually put them into practice and therefore keep more of what you're working hard for as an incentive to do that thing, whatever that thing may be. When you look at your entire journey, though, I mean, since 2018 till now, you've built a real business. It's not like something that you're just operating out of your closet. This is a real enterprise. You've done exceptionally well. What are some things that you can attribute that to specifically? Like, what should a business owner who's consuming this content right now, what should they be thinking about of how to grow and keep what they're making? Like, what should they be doing?
Keep what they're making, follow you, and listen to everything you say. Grow is a question that's become my motto over the last few years. Is, if you couldn't tell, I love questions. I love asking the right questions because that will present the answer.
Yes.
Who, not how. That is my only question that I ask. It was the opposite in the beginning of my journey. It was very much, how can I do this? How does this work? And then you become the operator.
Yep.
When you ask who, you start to see different options. If I need help with my taxes, I call you. On how do I keep more money in my business? If I need help on hiring, I go call somebody who's a HR hiring specialist or whatever the example is. But I don't try to figure it out on myself. I think like YouTube is great. It's a phenomenal thing. If you're like learning something, how to open a pickle jar when it's stuck, like that's fine.
Right.
Like how to run a business, maybe not the best best resource. Go find the person who's done it and mentor with them in your niche, or get them as a coach or a consultant, like you mentioned, and kind of gather their knowledge before you go make all the mistakes in the book.
Yeah, I liken it to the whole curation model. Like, you can walk into a library that has access to all the information. I mean, or just sit in front of a keyboard with Google, has access to all the information that's out there.
Yeah.
But it's the curation of the content that's right for you, where you are in your current path, at the state you are in your journey. That's what is the differentiating factor. That's the secret sauce, if you will, because it's not just learning, as you put it, the hows, because in fact you don't need to know that. I like to say the 7 magic words of every business owner is find the who that know the how.
I like that.
If you go through that process, if you find the who with regard to whatever it may be, if you're finding the who from a mentor standpoint, or if you're finding the who from an internal employee standpoint, because again, you don't want to be necessarily working in the business all the time.
Right.
You want to try to figure out how can you work more on the business. The only way to do that is to put others in the operations, if you will.
Yeah.
So finding the right who's in the different segments of what you're doing. This has been an amazing conversation.
I agree.
What I'd like to do, though, sometimes is to play this little bit of a thought exercise with our guests. If you wouldn't mind indulging me for a moment.
Please.
You share a lot of lessons that you've experienced over your journey. I'm curious, if I was able to give you the power of being able to go back in time.
Such a dangerous question.
Exactly. To visit with a younger version of yourself. The question is this. It's a twofold question. Who would you be going back to visit? Meaning, what age would you have been? Where were you in that journey of life, et cetera? And you have the power to share just one thing with that younger version of you. Who would you go back to visit, and what would you share?
How much time do we have to think about this? That's the real question. I think the who is simple. Is, and I talked about it before. It was 9-year-old me, and I think I don't know about what would I share. I mean, very very simply, I would the first bit of knowledge is everything happens for you, not to you. That would have been a major mind shift that I eventually got to, but wasted 10, 15 years getting there. I don't know.
But here's the question: would you have been able to hear it?
See, that's why it's a dangerous question. Is because like now, looking back, I'm so grateful for that experience and that I have that to live with constantly. I don't know, because you look at everything that's happened over the past 20 whatever years, and everything stacks. If I didn't do this, then I wouldn't have seen that. If I didn't go to college, I wouldn't have met my wife.
The cumulative effect of knowledge and experience.
So I say, I wrestle with that too. Like with my kids, like, I'm not going to take an experience from them. I'm going to show them the path. And that to me is the opportunity and the gift of being a leader, whether it's a parent or a business leader or a leader in any capacity, is not telling, but showing. And that's a very, very key distinction in the question you asked. I don't know. Would I have been able to hear it? I don't know. And I don't know if I go back to any point of me, would I be able to hear it? I don't know.
Well, here's an interesting twist then on this question. Let's imagine then for a moment that a future version of Brandon comes back in time in this moment that we're experiencing together and sits next to you on the couch, and he shares something with you. What is it that he shares?
Hopefully Powerball numbers. Then we don't have to do this, right?
Okay.
No, it's not that simple. Well, see, here's a question to your question. Do I have the context to know what that question is?
Exactly. And I think that's the key point. So we're constantly trying to figure out where we are in the journey, and figuring out context is important. It's all about the growth that takes place over time.
Yep.
I mean, I'm asked constantly, like, what's the secret sauce? There really isn't one.
There wasn't one.
There is hard work, but it's not all about just working hard, because there are a lot of people who work hard day in and day out and they don't get anything to show for it. So hard work is not necessarily the ingredient. It's not necessarily the what you knows, and it's also not necessarily the who you knows either. I mean, it's really all of the things together. It's finding the right amount, the right and correct inputs with the right leverage to get you the outcome that you're desiring in the shortest period of time, right? I mean, that's what every business owner is after. I mean, I think that's what everyone individually is after. The right amount of inputs with the right leverage to get the right outcome.
Yeah.
When you look at this scenario, there's been an opportunity for Brandon to hear two different points of information, of guidance, the younger version and the current version. I'm curious, because the audience wants to learn something too. If you had one thing that you would want to share with the audience, whether that's how to build a business, or what issues are the key metrics in business, or whatever it may be, something to add value. If you can only share one concept with the audience, what would it be?
I think it's one concept that has multiple layers, and I definitely shared the first part of it, is who, not how. Like, definitely get guidance from someone who's been there. But on top of that, it's a recipe, like you said. Like, if I asked you for guidance on some particular area or thing, but I'm not ready to hear it, what is it worth? Nothing. Right. If I have the KFC recipe and I don't know how to turn on a stove, it's not worth anything. So it's definitely, that would be one part, and then also continuous, relentless work on yourself. You said it, I'm going to say it, that is the biggest and quickest ROI I've ever experienced. I spent many hundreds of thousands of dollars on college, got not a lot. I spent many hundreds of thousands of dollars on me in the personal development realm, and I got a ton in return. And it will continue to build on itself, because it opens doors and it opens your mind to what you can receive in the future. So it's definitely, it's two parts, and I'm sure there's way more parts, but it's seek guidance and be able to receive the guidance and act upon it. If I'm going to add a third part, is just do it and learn.
Wonderful. This has been an amazing conversation. I truly appreciate you being so authentic and sharing your journey, not just with me, but with all the individuals who are going to consume this going forward. If someone wanted to be able to reach out to you personally, learn more about what you're doing and how you're doing it, because you're now going to be launching this franchise model. It's going to be an opportunity for others to be able to piggyback on your effort, labor over the course of the past number of years of building this out. Like, how can they get in touch with you? How can they learn more about what you're doing and how you're doing it?
The best way is probably go to our website. If you go to twistedink.com.
Twistedink.com.
Yeah, with a K, not a C.
Okay.
And no, we're not a tattoo shop. We get that a lot. But send me an email. You put it in the show notes. I'll give you my personal information. I love talking to people, and if you said it before, if you can help one person, it's worth it. I truly, truly believe that your network is your net worth. It's the cheesy saying, but it's so true. You know, who you know is always better than what you know, like you said. So if we can collaborate, if we can help each other grow, you don't know who you know really until someone else says, like, you know what I really need? I need a mason to like help me with my front steps. Like, oh my God, my neighbor's a mason. Let me hook you up. You don't know. So just connect with people.
You're one connection away.
Yep.
Right? That's amazing. Brandon, I appreciate you so much for being here. I love this experience. I love this conversation. And I know you have loved this as well. And I'm so confident that you've loved it that you're going to hit that subscribe button, because you're not going to want to miss what comes next. My name is Edward Collins, and this has been another amazing episode of Entrepreneur Unleashed. Can't wait to see you next time. Bye for now. Brandon, that was awesome.
That was so much fun.
It was a lot of fun. This is a good time, right?
Yeah, that was awesome.
How did you like it?
It was a lot of fun.
Pretty easy, right?
Yeah. Oh, I'm not worried with